rise and face the flag with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The school board will convene to closed sessions tonight to consider the employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility under Wisconsin statutes 19.85 and 110C, destination and imagination coordinator, OTPT services, high school boys basketball coach, middle school boys basketball coach, and staffing for 2022 and 23. Move to guest comments. I'll remind you that speakers have 3 minutes to give their comments. Carl Volkman will give you a heads up when your time is running out, and when your time runs out, you need to stop. We will appreciate that so that we can maintain order in the meeting and allow everybody their opportunity to speak. First, we have Andrew Killenberg.
Correct. So before we start the time, I'm here to speak about something that was on the agenda last board meeting. It might be tonight, so I'm not sure if you guys got rid of it. It's about the mandates for the teachers. You can start your time. I'd like to share my thoughts on why people are against mandates like the one unfortunately being discussed tonight. First and foremost, this is about a person's freedom of choice, about having autonomy over their own body. Armed forces veterans, police officers, nurses, teachers, people who have served us in the toughest of times are facing very hard decisions, all because they choose to exercise this right. And polling shows a large majority support them in their decisions. Huge portions of the community oppose due to religious reasons, whether you practice Christianity, Islam, Judaism, Hinduism, or even Buddhism, all have their own convictions in regards to what does and what does not go into their bodies. These sacred convictions are protected by our Constitution. Some question the potential health risks of a vaccine whose efficacy, durability, and safety are fluid from week to week. For example, from application to market, FDA approval of drugs, including vaccines, take an average of 12 years. These first generation mRNA vaccines took only 6 months. Polio, measles, mumps, and almost all our vaccines have an efficacy of between 90 and 98%. In contrast, the CDC has admitted mRNA vaccines do not protect you from catching COVID. Up until now, traditional vaccines prevented the spread of disease. The CDC has admitted again that COVID inoculations do not. Properly reviewed and tested vaccines offer protection for up to 10 years or more. COVID-class vaccines may offer protection for up to only 8 months. For virtually every other disease, again, this is from the CDC, inoculations are not needed if you have laboratory confirmation of past infection or had blood tests that show you were immune. For those who have COVID, recovered, and now have natural immunity, these rules do not apply. They are asked to take the extra risk associated with the vaccine. VAERS, the Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System, has reported thousands and thousands of cases, ranging from miscarriages, myocarditis, Bell's palsy, seizures, stroke, anaphylaxis, and for some, even death. These are serious factors that need to be taken into consideration. This will not be a one-time request. Most who have had 2 doses are no longer considered vaccinated and record a 3rd or even a 4th. Please remember the goalposts have been moved for almost 2 years now. Boosters are being developed for already named variants, and make no mistake, they will be coming for our kids next. Kids who virtually 99% of them have no complications from COVID. This is a Pandora's box that we should never consider opening. No one on this board should even remotely consider to mandate a policy that includes by force acceptance of a poorly tested first-generation mRNA injection, especially since the vast majority in the school have been vaccinated or have immunity. With all due respect, none of you were elected to make medical decisions for staff or students. I urge you to put aside your personal beliefs, take a real look at the risk-reward aspect, and put yourself in these people's shoes for just a minute. Thank you.
My name's Jessica Killenberg, and I'm a special ed aide here at Sevastopol. I've worked in the elementary school for 10 years, and up until now, I have loved coming to work every day. It was tough last year with all that was unknown, but we did what we had to do and mustered through it. The beginning of the school year brought hope and smiles and a return to some normalcy. Recently, though, I have been riddled with fear, uncertainty, and anger over the recent talks about a possible vaccine mandate. I am here tonight speaking on my behalf and others to tell you that I strongly oppose a mandate for staff. I believe in my right and everyone's right to choose what medical treatments they want for themselves, and I also believe that my God-given immune system is an amazing wonder, and that natural immunity to COVID is equal to, if not better than that of a vaccine. In the 10 years that I have worked at Sevastopol, I've accumulated 534 hours of sick pay. That's equal to 76 days. I have used only 24 of those days, and out of those, I was only sick a handful of times. The rest were used because of appointments and a broken ankle that I had several years ago. This shows two things. My immune system is strong and working, and I'm a valuable and dependable employee. I am not vaccinated, and I will not get vaccinated. At the last board meeting, you were discussing ways in which you could convince or persuade those of us who have chosen not to get vaccinated to change our minds. You said things like, we need to educate them, give them some information, let's offer incentives to those who have, and maybe they'll do the same. I find it very insulting that you would think we would need to be educated, because we are educators. Don't you think we've done our research? I'm not interested in your information unless it includes both sides of the issue. And will you include information from VAERS or information about natural immunity? It's also insulting that you think incentives will do the trick, because do you honestly think you can dangle a carrot in front of us and we will change our minds? No amount of money or gift card will convince me to take a risk and potentially damage my health with an injection that has caused heart issues, seizures, Bell's palsy, and even death in some individuals. Who would be liable if I were vaccine injured? I am here tonight to tell you that if the board decides to go ahead with a vaccine mandate for staff, you are taking away my freedom of choice. I will not comply. I will not get vaccinated. I won't test weekly. I'm not going to wear a mask indefinitely. You will have to fire me, and you will risk losing other dedicated and valuable staff.
30 seconds.
Then what will you do when there are not enough teachers and aides? What about a possible shortage in other areas of support staff where shortages already exist? How is that good for our kids? Our choice not to vaccinate is just as valid as those who chose to. It's a choice and should stay that way. I urge the board to please stop this nonsense and vote no on a vaccine mandate.
I'd add my support to what's just gone before. With regard to masking of students, the spike in cases that we've been experiencing looks like it's starting to trend down now, which is great. I would really like the board to discuss and hopefully define what kind of actual case level number that needs to be reached at Sevastopol School for us to allow a return to optional masking. I think that in support of that, it would be very helpful if the school could publish a weekly number of confirmed COVID cases and active quarantine cases at the school, so that as parents we can have some visibility of what actual impact that you're experiencing in the classroom. It helps us to understand your position better, as well as giving us information. I think that if the board can actually set a target level, it would take all the emotion out of this issue, because everyone would have a fixed point that that we're all aiming for, that we all want to get to, and that we can switch back to, and there'll be a lot less kind of like invective and frustration on all sides if we could do that. So thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it.
There is a COVID update on the main page of the website. Last updated October 19th. I don't know how often that's updated.
I usually do the first day of the week, but Mondays I meet students.
So every Monday you can look for that on the website. It gives active.
Gives active, recovered, and number out of quarantine due to cases here at school.
Awesome. Thank you.
It's been there since last school year.
Mr.
Last year I
Thomas.
updated it more often, but I got tired of doing it, so I do it on Mondays.
Seth Thomas.
Yeah, I'm very pro-vaccination, but I'm not, pro-mandated vaccinations. But at the same time, you have to be protecting our kids. And yeah, maybe this is going down. Maybe we're seeing a lull, but we've just seen another 11 people in the county hospitalized. We have over 100 people. This is the first week there hasn't been over 100 people positive COVID in the county since probably the end of August. our positivity rate, it was greater than 50% last week between Monday and Thursday. The problem that I have with all this is, my sixth grader is now having a project or has to write a report on what makes good Americans. And I'm not here to tell you getting a vaccine makes you a good American, or masking makes you a good American, but dropping all this nonsense, saying things that are not true and misleading to other people has become ridiculous. No matter what side you're on. I mean, there's published data on the public health website on how much COVID is in Door County. It's a lot. Working at the hospital, it's a lot. There's more people getting hospitalized every day. My wife gives the amount of clonal antibodies to people every day, more than one. And then there's this nonsense about, talking about how masks may be petri dishes. Well, when everybody wore a mask last year, what happened to our kids' influenza numbers, RSV numbers, bacterial pneumonia numbers? In the whole United States, hundreds of thousands went to almost zero. Some petri dish. People believe you when you talk. They're not going to come here and refute what you have to say. I mean, people talk about the Israeli vaccination study that was out. What was the best immunity that came out of that? Natural immunity from getting sick and being vaccinated. Both together. It says it almost in the first part of it. We need to know what we're talking about. The Dutch study about masking that was brought up in July. That actually talked about how good masking was. It didn't meet the power of 50%. I'm telling you, if you're going to bring up these studies, don't read somebody else's representation or summary of it. Read the study. I have to do it for my job. And I shake my head every time I hear people believing what people have to say that is completely incorrect. I'm fine if we decide not to mask. My kids will mask no matter what. I'm fine if there's not a vaccination mandate. But I'm tired of listening to everybody spew out things that they don't know what they're talking about. Read the study and then talk to us about it. Look at the actual numbers. Over 99% of the people who get the vaccination don't have side effects. You can say that over 99% of the people who get COVID don't have effects. Over 99% don't.
Is that time? Yep. Thank you, Seth. Amy Johnson.
My name is Amy Johnson, and I have 3 boys in the Sevastopol school system. I just want to start by saying I'm not anti-mask or anti-vaccine. I'm for the freedom to choose my own health care and for the health care of my children. I'm not a domestic terrorist like the government is now calling parents that show up at school board meetings and speak their mind. I'm just using my constitutional right for free speech. I'm very grateful to live in this country with all the things, with all the things trying to divide us like masks and vaccines. There's one thing that should unite us. We should all be fighting to keep our liberties. We should be fighting for free speech no matter how uncomfortable people are or who wants to cancel us. We should be fighting for freedom of assembly, giving all of us the right to be here and say what we think. Fighting to make sure our schools are teaching our kids how to think and not what to think. We as parents are losing our rights to direct our children's health and education, and it should scare us. I think the main thing hurting our children now is the public health department because the stats show it's not COVID. Why are schools listening to them? I'm hoping they remember why they took their job in the first place, to help kids, to make sure they have the best education. I don't know how they can get that when they can't breathe and are being sent home when they're healthy. Mine has been home all week, and he's perfectly fine. Has there even been any positive cases from close contact? A child showing no symptoms is not the driver of an outbreak. Kids who are showing symptoms are. It should be as simple as keep your kids home when you're sick. Our leaders aren't helping either. They say the country is getting back to normal. Really? There are hospitals and airlines going under. Police, firefighters, and military pilots are quitting instead of getting a vaccine. These people are all essential to keeping this country running. The economy is a mess. Stores can't keep their shelves stocked, and I'm sure you've seen gas prices. What is the government trying to do? It should make you wonder. And how many times are we going to believe in their failed promises? 2 weeks to stop the spread, but they can go back to normal. Then we had lockdowns so we go back to normal. Then mandating masks. Now the government is trying to mandate vaccines so we can go back to normal. Mandates for people who have already had COVID. Even the CDC says you don't need a measles vaccine if you've had the measles. Same with smallpox. In study after study, natural immunity is by far the best. The question is, why does the government want to mandate a vaccine even for people who have already had it, and if it's ruining this country? Seems like something else is going on here. Every time we comply, we establish a time when our children will not be free. My liberties and those of my children are more important than this so-called safety. Just as a frame of reference, 6 sections of the state constitution are being violated with these mandates, and I believe unjust government does not warrant compliance. Thank you for your time.
Thank you all for your comments. Does anyone have any items they wish removed from the consent agenda? Hearing none, the consent agenda is approved by consent, including a donation from Precious Metal Refining Services of $1,000 to the Lunch Angel program. We'll move to the administrative reports there, Mr. Beer.
Thank you, Mrs. Berry, I appreciate it. I'm really excited about what's happening in the gym just a few feet away from us tonight. We have our volleyball team who's participating in the regional tournament. They are the #1 seed. If they win tonight, they'll play the regional championship game on Saturday at 7 o'clock, so I'm enjoy that. I'd like to thank our parents. Parent-teachers conferences were very well attended last night. We had a chance to visit with many parents, and we had a chance to see the school. So it was really a fun event overall. I provided the board with a lot of updates from our working session. The board has some questions about the ELA task force, so I provided a proposal. It's a draft proposal that we're still working on and answering some questions about, but hopefully it helps you understand the direction that team is going. I also provided you the 3-year action plan for the Sevastopol Science Department, and I updated you with some current action steps that we're taking. So coming up in the near future, we're going to have on November 10th a night for parents to come in and see how we're using the NGS standards and those class practices. So I invite everybody to participate in that. One of the areas that I'm working on, we just finished our MAP assessment. And with that, we start to look at our students' intervention needs and place them in appropriate programming. So right now, I just met with my team yesterday, my ELA team yesterday in middle school, and we've got 161 kids in our middle school. Typically, our class sizes are about 45 to 50 kids, so it's a big middle school for us, the biggest middle school we've ever had. So as a result, there are a lot of identified areas where we can work with students, and we're now placing those intervention programs. So that is good work, and we wanted to release it very good. So thank you, that's all I have. Any questions?
Questions for Mr. Bear?
I did have one, Adam, on the opportunities for young people to get some additional help for learning gaps. You have some early morning and then late afternoon. Is everyone who needs the help able to make those times? We aren't excluding anyone because they can't make the times.
That's one of the things we've definitely discussed, Mrs. today, and I don't know that they will be able to. The unique thing about high schools, we have a number of students that can drive, so we're hoping that can be. We've had great partnerships with our parents, but any work that we can do outside of the school day gives us more time to do more work during the school day.
Right.
So we're hoping that there's a balance and ability. We do have some success criteria in the number of students that we want to serve.
I just wouldn't want to see someone excluded because they couldn't make those times.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we've been discussing.
Okay,
We
good.
haven't run it yet, so we'll see
Okay.
where the gap are. They do have identified the students, so we'll
Right.
find out if the kids are making it or not,
Right.
and we'll adjust if need be.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Absolutely.
At my high school, before I moved up here, they had a late bus. That's what, you're tracking.
Yeah.
It should be discussed if it gets to that. We don't need that, so you're tracking.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've identified 43 students, and we're going to track the number of them. Thank you.
Just,
Oh, Mr. Ward?
yeah, just not, don't let us lay out.
Yeah, we need to be more rounded. We'll do that next time.
feel like I'm a parole board or something. Well, the bill fair took some room, and so we'll get her in 4 or 5 months. We'll be getting straight.
So anyway, I'm just going to make a comment for the high school and grade school. In that, as you've heard me at other meetings, I strongly believe the future of kids is determined how well they read. If you can't read when you leave, read at least to it. I think the number is like a 5th or 6th grade level when you leave high school. You're doomed to failure. The odds are you're going to be failure the rest of your life. You're not going to be able to. So I would appreciate it if maybe sometime after the first of the year, when you get all your scores back, could the principals do I don't know, 20, if it's okay with the board. I think it'd be interesting to do like a 20 minute, 30 minute, however long it takes, an in-service to the board about what the reading program here is all about. You know, how we teach reading, what we do with reading, how well kids are doing with reading. If that's possible. Actually, I think it'd be interesting as we put together some strategy stuff. Each month after that, we have a presentation to the board about, there's like maybe reading, and then another one about math, what we're doing in math, how math is being taught, you know, da. And then we could do another one in English, or another one on science, how science is being taught. Just so we understand, you know, this is our product, but I don't really know what the product is. And then probably which would be an interesting one, to be on social studies, because that seems to be, social studies and history seems to be a very flammable point in schools across the country these days. But I think it behooves us as the board to understand what's being taught in world history, what's being taught in world social studies. So we can either comment on it, or so if something really flies, it's the man. At least we're aware of it and we can talk about it. So yeah, we know about that, we support it. Is that possible?
Let's talk about that concept when we finish up board goals.
Okay. Thank you.
Mrs. Margot.
Mr. Ward, to kind of talk to the points of presentations to the board. On Monday, this coming Monday, Mr. Bear, Mr. Schultz, and myself are going to be working with a representative from CISA to understand that new report card. And our hope with that is to come back when we're able to share all that information and educate the board on the new report card and how we're going to use that to determine different learning strategies for kids. So we're excited to learn more about that and then to bring that education to our community so everyone understands the importance of the new report card. I want to give a small update on the STRIDE program. We actively have 11 students now in the STRIDE program. We're working for additional time with our therapist. And also, we had hired a new mental health navigator as well, so that person can start to be in the schools and help all of us, you know, get the resources to the kids and then to the families as well, so we're really pleased that that person has been hired. The other piece that I wanted to say is a bit about the United Way too, and just to show that there's a strong partnership between the United Way and the school districts. And they came and dropped off gift cards for about 50 gift cards for us to be able to distribute to families in need. So it's a $50 gift card. And I just think it's really nice to acknowledge it and to say thank you because I know that our families will appreciate it. And that's all I have tonight. If there's any questions.
Questions for Mrs. Marco? There are none. Does anyone have questions to direct to Mr. Nicky or Mr. Bear regarding, or Ms. Marco regarding the athletic director report or the gift that was found to the report? And now we'll move to the superintendent's report.
I do have one. No, it's a general comment for anybody. Our DAD at our school that I think is working very hard, we are struggling to get parent volunteers. Probably not you guys because you already volunteer here. So I just wanted to put it out there that we have a great school and a lot of good kids, but we need more parents to help at games and events like that. Probably not you guys again, but for everyone listening out there, help out, get involved, hold the chain at a football game. It's kind of fun, you know, or volleyball or baseball or whatever you love, or even if you don't love, it would help our school a lot because we're struggling at getting it. And then, luckily we're grabbing parents out of bleachers and stuff like that. It's not a save the world type of thing, but hey, if you got some time, it'd be nice. So I know she works very hard, and all you guys work hard. In fact, one meeting, we had the superintendent and the 2 principals, I think, got holding chains. I kind of enjoyed that, but yeah, so.
So can you say that a lot of those jobs don't require any prior training?
Oh, no, we just be present, that's all you gotta do.
Superintendent.
Running the chains is hard to do. I want to let you know next week, Sunday through Tuesday, I'm at the Rural Schools Conference in the Dells. And everything else I have is prepared for you tonight.
I don't have anything except if you see me fooling around with my phone and computer, it's because the system keeps bumping me out of my documents for the meeting and asking me for a security code. That's what I'm doing. Communications Committee. I think Jerry was there. We met on October 11th. The next newsletter is coming out shortly, I think at the end of the month. Then after that, it will be January. We're basically working on that, working on awards display, either athletic or academic, to make sure that they're all displayed properly in a timely way. I think that was about it. Athletics Committee, do you have anything to report?
I did not make it.
Well, you were at this meeting, though, on the 27th.
27th.
You were at that one. That was us, and then Dan came over.
Did not review my notes.
Okay.
The one thing that did come up there was the parent discussion. We're struggling at finding parents. So I already said that already. So that came out of that meeting. So.
And we're trying to work with the town, with the park over there, because that's where our baseball and softball lands are. There's some long-term plans and short-term projects over there. And then, Tuesday night, this tank, Mr. Volkman and myself went over and went to their park next week. And it was one of the better meetings we've had over there.
One thing I wanted to emphasize the progress there that Brooke and the town are making with Kyle's help is that baseball field, I guess, has been a problem. I found out from Mr. Andy Tate. For like 20 plus years, it's been a problem. And I joked that if every year they would have carried one shovel over there, it'd be fixed. The school, it's getting fixed finally next fall because of rain and scheduling and COVID. But so those are good progress and things that are coming out of that cooperation with the town. So shout out to the town and the work that people are doing. And the 5-year plan is so we can plan a reasonable budget to help with that, because we do have a lot of kids that play over at the town. So yeah, I guess I jumped in there. That's a good thing.
If there's nothing else on that, the budget report.
All right, the budget report for the month. Fund 10 is just over $5 million cash on hand. And Fund 39, 46, and Field 49 are listed here as well. This last month, we received some sparsity aid for $196,354. Our construction cost for this month was $1,029,912.82. Hopefully we'll have a couple more payments and then it'll be complete. And then later on, we'll have the revenue limit worksheet and the budget, which is pretty much the budget from the annual meeting before we do the second one.
Any questions on those items? Hearing none, then we will move to facilities report. Building field.
You have a sheet in front of you with 29 items. These are the item checklist that has to be completed yet for the building project. Some are real minor, like moving a clock. Others are a little more invasive, like the plumbing in the 4K room's got a blockage. So they went to repair it, but they rotored it out and they knocked the pipe, and so the pipe's broke, so now they got to cut the floor of the Mrs. Destel's bathroom and rip it up and fix that. But that's on them, not us, but it's got to get done. And there's 29 items that Dan, Katrina, and I have on our list that we got to have my room finished until they get done. So, we'll start using the parking lot on Monday. And the landscapers were supposed to be here this week. We haven't seen them yet. They came for a little while, I should say, the rain when they left. But it's going to cause us some problems with the parking lot because we can't pull over the edge because they're going to be work where the cars are parking. So we got to make sure we park pavement only. And then there's just a whole on to this. I don't know if there's any items on there specific you want to talk about, but we'll keep clicking them off.
I have a question.
Yep.
The area right outside the front door, where the sidewalk goes to the library,
Yeah.
those two areas,
Yeah, I mean,
we looked at
soil,
that today.
yeah. I think as soon as they can get something in and stabilize that soil, those pits that they created for the runoff is just, you know, that's going to be the landscaping company that's going to do that.
Right, they should have done here, right, when they get some grass growing, that should help the erosion.
They need to get something on top of that soil. We're losing, I mean, the runoff there.
That front area could have been planted a month ago,
Yeah.
right? And you have to put those basins in, right?
Okay, well, that's a lot of stuff, but I guess in a 20-something million project, it's not so much.
I mean, should we have any building grounds meeting sometime soon?
That'd be helpful.
I did walk the football field, and there are some situations out there.
Okay, well, that's next day item. We're doing a punch list on the field tomorrow, and then we'll catch, then you'll end up with a list like this with the field, except it'll be shorter.
All right.
Yeah.
So this is your official punch list?
This is Dan and my sheet list on what we want done. Yeah, before Myron leaves the door. Yep. They have a punch list, but this is ours, what we want. Yeah.
Maybe at the end of the meeting, we can try to schedule a building and grounds
We
meeting.
can do that.
So how's the building
Did you,
work?
is there anything else on the field you want to talk about?
It's better than it was, but the grass, I'm not happy with some spots of it, but we'll walk them tomorrow and see. I'm pretty happy with the rubberized surface, the painting of the lines, the press box. Bridges, those are all pretty solid. I haven't been inside the press box, just on the outside those, so tomorrow we're gonna do a punch list, and we always find things when we have a punch list, so I'll know more tomorrow.
We have to blow down this one, it's just before it freezes.
They have a system.
The system's running, oh yeah, they've been using it, but they, yeah, they'll get blown out before winter hits.
That's on, we're just sort of planning that. So
Yeah, that'll be an annual event, yeah,
Right, I know.
absolutely, yep.
It's just the first time I get this.
Because I think he has to revisit, the field.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then we can come back in the spring and see how winter did, right? Yeah.
Soccer is a question mark.
We'll have to see when the snow comes off and down what the grass looks like in the spring, yes. Yeah, right.
Any other questions on that?
Just Kyle, this is a general question. This probably should, this is a question probably should go to the teachers, but I'll ask you. So, and where you are right now with the new building, you've been in it for 2 months. Is it working as expected, better than expected, or worse than expected?
You speak for everybody? I think it's great. No,
You can all nod your heads. No,
I think it's working out pretty well. Yeah, I think it's better than it was, yeah, but
No, as
intended, I haven't seen anything like, oh, shoot, I do that different. Is that what you're asking me?
Tell me some of those.
There's always, well,
Oh, yeah.
Every time you build something, you're gonna walk in
Right, I
and find
understand.
something different.
That's good.
I'll walk around the building,
Build a shed.
I'll show you what I don't like, yeah, but I mean, I got some
But
things.
overall, is it working?
Overall,
I agree.
hey, staff that's here, can you give me a thumbs up or thumbs down, the building's okay? Yeah.
See, we have enough thumbs up from non-staff.
All right, yeah, so, yeah.
Thank you.
Did you have some?
The only thing I was gonna say is to echo, I think that people are just moving into a new space and understanding how to live in that space. And there's always gonna be the coulda, shoulda, woulda designed this or wanted that there, but I mean, for the most part, I think it's growing in and just adjusting to the new space, and I'm thankful for it, you know, for sure.
Last night during parent-teacher conference, I had a teacher tell me that she moved the table in a different direction and changed the whole atmosphere of her room. So yeah, they're figuring it out as they go. You know, 2nd through 5th grade wanted blinds in their room. The original design didn't have blinds, so I ordered blinds, and they're still coming. So there's still some improvements. They want more cork strip and bulletin boards and whiteboards than ever. So those are being installed as we go. But so it's like moving a new house, I guess.
So I saw more thumbs up than thumbs down.
Yeah.
Good. Legislative report?
Yes, just one quick reminder that if you didn't get to our regional meeting, in Green Bay a couple weeks ago. There is one more opportunity for a regional WASB meeting, and that will be virtual. So you can sit home and enjoy that meeting. You can simply register at the WASB website. It is on October 27 at 7 p.m. And you will be able to take advantage of a legislative update as well as an update from our Executive Director, John Ashley, and a few other items on that agenda. Those people who did come to the Green Bay regional meeting seem to really enjoy the opportunity to get together and to share stories and network. So I would encourage you to take advantage of this virtual opportunity. And I will be attending the Wisconsin Rural Schools Conference that Kyle referenced before this weekend as well. And we'll bring back any information that I can from that to share with the board. Thank you.
Thank you. We had a goals session on October 7th, and out of that meeting, first thing we talked about were board operations, generally how things go at meetings. And I think, if I'm wrong, correct me, but I think we agreed that generally we run pretty well, but we are going to have kind of a refresher session or an update from our legal counsel on board meetings and handling certain topics. Is that correct?
Board operations and rules, Robert's Rule of Order.
And Mr. Woodley will schedule that for us. So I don't think we have to continue that as a goal. It's just something we talked about, unless somebody has another comment on that. One of the other goals was student achievement, and I don't know that we talked a lot about student achievement, specifically those two areas that were noted on the sheet, socioeconomic development and minority. But I also think that work is happening under work done by the administrative team and staff, under goals from the strategic plan. So I think that's ongoing, and we will get an update on the strategic plan probably in about January. So I don't think we need to carry that forward as a goal.
I do think this is what Jerry was talking about earlier, tying in those student achievement. If each department came, you can't ask the two principals, Margaret, presentation every month on their subject area, but each department can come and give one. I think that's where you tie it in.
So I'm just going to ask how the board feels about that, having that little learning session every month on an area of curriculum, as Jerry suggested earlier.
We used to do that a few years ago.
Right.
I thought it was very educational. Just maybe to have the department heads come in and tell us about it. That's right.
Well, just my comment, if it ties in or not, and this is, I'm going to ask Sue about it so she can help me understand it when there's time, but I want to get in, we talk a lot, but I want to put those sessions, start talking about school data, and start, when we talk curriculum, let's start looking at map data, because there's two things the curriculum is driving it, but like reading, like I believe with reading, and I'm a big STEM guy, right? So I think could we weave that together, or is that a different animal? So like if we're going over curriculum and our middle school needs more help with math, because their fourth grade math teacher needed. So, as an example, right? Jen's teaching math right now.
Right.
So that would be, do we weave that in or something like that? Or is that a separate topic? And is that
You can weave it
completely
in
separate
cards,
too? Am I
and
missing
it could
that?
be separate as well. The report cards and sports like that be one thing, but they can weave something as well.
I don't care if we handle it separate, it doesn't, I think we will all benefit from the data, because that can drive resources, staffing, because I know we just educated a bunch of people, got the reading certification, by the way, Jerry, just not recently, or, since I've been here anyways. So that's a great thing, and so.
I think we need to keep in mind, too, Dave, on that we do have an expert in data who lives in our district, Dr. Judy Sargent, who worked for CISA and still does work at the DPI in that area. And certainly we should take advantage of
I
her
didn't know that.
as a resource because she offers to do all of this for free.
Well, I support that if we can figure it out.
Who wants to speak on that?
And Dave, to add on that, Judy is definitely going to be instrumental in when we talk in January about the data and how to use that data. So she's already volunteered her services to help us with that presentation.
And maybe that new report card is going to address that.
It'll all be,
Yeah,
yeah.
just-
We just have a really good opportunity to look at data differently.
Yeah.
Because it's being presented differently, and how are we going to use that to drive our instruction? So she is actually volunteered and asked to be a part of that, so she'll bring her wisdom, because that's what she does well.
So then that monthly learning session in service, or we want to call it, is something we can carry forward and we'll have on, and I guess we'll look at the administrative team decide in
We'll come up with a
January how you want to bring that forward. Again, the strategic plan, we talked about it, and that's another thing that we're going to get more of an update on from the administrative team early part of next year. The last item we ruminated on was the mission statement, because we have those 3 mission statements published, and which is the best. The other thought on that is at this time, there was one other thing that we talked about, and that was the book study of the Studer group that we might start after the new year between the school board and the administrative team. And coming out of that, because that group, I shouldn't say group, that process has an organization focus on what its mission is, and that drives the vision and the goals. Is that correct, Jerry?
Mm-hmm.
So the mission statement, we might select something now, we might leave it alone and see what we learn through that book study next year. So whatever the board's pleasure is on that discussion at this time. Yeah.
I think the mission statement is broad, and I think it's accurate, and, I think it serves a purpose.
What do you, which one?
Which one are you talking about?
The one that we have in the present one.
Well, there's 3. He's the top one, right? The short and sweet one.
The short and sweet to provide students with the knowledge, skills, and attitudes necessary to be lifelong learners and responsible citizens. Without getting too deep about it.
So one of the discussion, I agree with what you said, and there's 2 other ones, so do we need a motion to pick this as the mission currently, take the other 2 and package them as very useful, and especially one from the strategic planning group? There's a lot of greatness in there, but it might not just be labeled a mission statement, maybe it's something else. So, I mean, so do we want to, is that a discussion to pick one for now and move forward? Because having 3 is just causing confusion, right? So that's why we're discussing it.
Whatever is important to, I think the mission statement is important. If we sat on it and decided on something next year after we do the book study, that's fine. What we have so what's published right now on the website as the school's mission statement is that first option that Dick just read. That's what's published on the website right now.
Is that a motion? Dick? Dick,
So,
is that a motion?
whatever your pleasure on
I
that.
didn't make a motion.
Oh, I was asking to put that on.
Well, I would move that we keep the current mission statement that we have.
The one you just read.
One I just read is our mission statement.
Second.
Questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion is carried, and then the goals we'll carry forward are the monthly learning session, the session with the legal team on board operations and Robert's Rules of Order, and the book study in the coming year. There's no other discussion on that? guess we kind of rolled those two together. 2021, 22. You voted on that, didn't we, Carl?
What's that? Yes, we did. Which one are we talking about?
Jerry second.
That's done it fast.
Earth to Carl, Earth to Carl.
Went on
He's on school operations.
Yeah, we're on to 21, 22, school operations, COVID.
How was that?
So we discuss this every month. Maybe I should make this comment during guest comments. We appreciate everyone's comments and do listen to them, and we get multiple emails every month about people's opinions on what is the best way, what's the right way. I truly believe there is no, I believe there are a lot of opinions and history of what was right and what was wrong. There aren't any winners or losers. We are just trying to make the best decision that we can to balance keeping kids safe and keeping them in school as much as possible. So how would you like to begin this, Mr. Lippy?
They have a sheet that has a red line in the middle of it. You flip it over. What you have here is you have student, and I removed their names, but I did put the grade level they're in parentheses, and then you have the quarantine number associated with that student. So the first student was in 8th grade. There were 0 quarantines. Because of them, and 0 kids vaccinated that did not require quarantine at that time. It's because the kid was positive in August, and the school started in September, so he was still out, so you didn't have any contact here at school with anyone. As you go down the list, you'll see there's 31 total, including 2 staff members. The second column has the quarantine, and the second number, larger number, is the running total. And then under vaccinated, no quarantine necessary. There's not always a number because those kids are less than 7th grade, so they weren't eligible to be vaccinated. There were a total of 65 students or staff out on quarantine associated with one of the 31 cases we had. 22 additional were quarantined, did not have to be quarantined, so 65 and 80 and 22 is 87. Of those folks now, the last 3 cases, you can't count the 3, 6, 8, 15 kids or adult or members because their time lapse hasn't elapsed yet because they're still in that time period where they're out on quarantine or ahead that window. But if you subtract that off, it's 87. Of that, only case number 10, the student there, is associated with case number 3. So we only have 1 of the 31 as a known contact. Well, and I can't guarantee it was because of that contact. I don't know what they did the rest of their life, but I do know that's the only one we have associated out of there. And if you go back to the student number 3, the 7th grader, you can see 8 kids went out when he or she was positive because 5 were quarantined, 3 were vaccinated, no contact, so you had close contact with each students or staff members at that time. So if you flip it over to the other side, my recommendation moving forward is if a student has one of the following symptoms, no loss of taste or smell, no onset of cough, has difficulty breathing, vaccinated or unvaccinated, they may return to school with a negative COVID test and 24 hours is symptom-free. If untested, the student must remain out on quarantine for 10 days because we don't have proof that they're not positive. If they have 2 or more of the following symptoms, they'll follow the same protocol, and those symptoms are sore throat, unusual fatigue, vomiting, diarrhea, headache, fever over 100.4 or greater. And then, of course, if someone tests positive for COVID-19, whether they're vaccinated or unvaccinated, they're on quarantine for 10 days from symptom onset, or if asymptomatic, 10 days from the positive test. If a student has close contact of a positive case in the same household, they're vaccinated, they may attend school, masked, monitored for symptoms for 14 days past the last date of contact with the positive person. They're unvaccinated, quarantined for 10 days past the last contact with a positive individual, or 10 days past the last day the household member was released from their quarantine. And the last situation has been in close contact with a positive case while here at school, vaccinated or unvaccinated. We notify the parent or guardian. Parents which should monitor the symptoms, and the students would remain in school masked for the next 10 days. And of course, they showed signs that they go home. So that's the recommendation. Masking, we're at optional masking grades 7 through 12 and masking 4K through 6, and my recommendation is to stay with that. But you can discuss that. We can discuss all of it. Go ahead.
And how does this align with the medical health people, is their thinking?
They would want masking for everybody,
Okay.
and they would send you home if you were a close contact.
I think more and more schools aren't. Here's an example, and this is a student in our school. So here's a kid who went to school for 9 years, never missed a day of school. And now because of quarantine, he's missed 40 days, and he's never gotten COVID. So I think not quarantining, and the numbers, the numbers that I believe our young kids are not at a very great risk of this thing. So that's why I think our kids in school are not at great risk, so I don't think we need to quarantine. Now, I think nobody disputes if there's symptoms, so I think the approach is good. But, because the concern on public health, like people have setting levels, we've been working with public health and asking for a long time if we would set levels. So what you said, Kyle has asked repeatedly to help us understand that. But, the public health voice comes from, my interpretation is it's not from an application into a county. She's echoing the public health guidance that comes from on high. And I think that's tough to apply that to a different town than, and I said this in other meetings, the guidance coming from the CDC for Chicago, DC, West Jacksonport, probably should be different. And that's what I personally have struggled with interpreting the guidance when they say it's all for everybody's sake. So that's why, and that's why I think, and we track our numbers closely, and the numbers are reporting it. And every time it gets worse, we change on the dime. So I think as far as priorities and what matters, I think we've attempted to navigate this reasonably well, not satisfying everybody in this room. But, so
Does the protocol of West Jacksonport apply to South Jacksonport?
so.
Mr. Whitehead, would you like to comment?
Not on West I think it's critical that we protect all the students from masking that do not have access to vaccinations. I think within the next 2 weeks, obviously, by 1st November, that landscape is going to change. The recommendation for children ages 5 to 11 to receive the vaccination. We already are at ages 12 and above. Again, the quarantine process takes its toll. I kind of agree with Dave on this. We have a mixed population of vaccinated people and non-vaccinated people. And also we have to remember that, Sevastopol School only has these children for probably 6 to 7 hours a day. So we a lot of times are reacting to the exposure of these children outside of school, outside of our control. And they're in the eyes to me, the real problem. I have been in favor of the vaccination program. I agree with one of our speakers. There is so much misinformation out there about vaccinations. People do not understand the new vaccinations, new mRNA vaccinations, and the process, how they work. They differ from old vaccinations, the old process, how vaccines were produced. People have a hard time dealing with that, but they're very effective. Data doesn't lie about people going in hospitals, people coming down with COVID, 90% plus are unvaccinated. So in my opinion, vaccination...
Can we hold vaccination and first talk about this, and then go on to vaccination? Well, it falls under COVID, so we can talk about it. I don't want to lose that, so... I don't want to lose that. I want to get this done first, if that's okay. So did you have any other comments
No,
on this?
thank you.
Keith?
I support the recommendation. I mean, I think that, as David and people have mentioned before, we are quick to adjust if there's a uptick in anything or what applies here in Sevastopol may not apply in Green Bay or Milwaukee or other larger areas, but I think
Jerry?
Just coming back from the first time I've been on an airplane in a long time. You put your mask on when you go to the airport. You don't take your mask off until you get out of the final airport. So you could, and so I thought, oh my God, I was so glad to get out of the airport so I could take my mask off. I'm thinking, well, these poor kids, faculty go through this every freaking day. So I find a mask really a distraction. I also say here, I just thought this, it isn't like we're dealing with the polio of the 50s. We're not dealing with polio. We're not dealing with kids falling over, dying in iron lungs and stuff. We're dealing with a type of flu that very few kids die from. So, I don't know, I had the opportunity, and this opportunity I had a very boring evening. So I went to YouTube and I came across the Algoma school board meeting where we discussed this for 2 hours. I remember about the same position you have this time. So I was thinking this out, I came up with a slightly different thing, but because the real distraction, again, as you all know, I'm from healthcare, and we're very myopic in healthcare. Just patients first, and so that's why we're really big on masks and stuff, really protect our patients who come in with various degrees of where the least little killed could knock them out and kill them or have serious effects. I mean, I just had to say this. There are some serious things with it, just so we don't all think we're in a panacea with the vaccine. I recently talked to my stepbrother, who's a physician, a primary care physician in Quincy, Illinois, works in outpatient. And so he came down with COVID after he had his shot. But then I talked to him after that, and so he got his booster. So ever since he had his booster, he now has a tremor in his left hand.
We're going to talk about vaccination after this.
I'm just talking about how there's so much stuff going on. It's not as simple as we all think. So anyway, and reading what was going on at that school board, they talked a lot about what's going on in Green Bay. So I came up with a different option, which probably you won't go for, but to me the big problem in education is that we send so many kids home because they've been in contact with someone, close contact with COVID, and they never come down with it, which is really disruptive in the atomic family of today, and it creates a whole bunch of problems and stresses. So we really want to eliminate some stressors too, but not harm the kids. So I came up with this idea, take it for what it's worth. If let's take Mrs. Jones' 3rd grade class, okay? And Billy Smith comes down with this type of COVID. My solution would be then the other members of the class, that person goes home for 14 days. The rest of the members of the class have to wear masks now for at least 10 days, or 14 days, however you feel about it. And if nobody comes down with COVID in that period of time, the kids can take the mask off. Teacher wears the mask, kids wear the mask in that particular class. So we're not sending anybody home, so we're watching what happens here. And then if another kid, and I presume, let's say another kid in the class comes down with COVID in the 10 days, then the class extended the mask for another 10 days. But it's not chaos of the whole place. To me, that would be a much simpler way to do it for the lower grades than the upper grades.
That's pretty much the lower right-hand box, except you're masking everybody in the third grade classroom. I was only going to mask the kids that were in close
Yeah,
contact.
but okay, but the reason I propose that is because I think the teachers can bear me out that I'm right or wrong. To me, like under, I don't know what grade, fifth grade, fourth grade, they're all like a bunch of little all over the place. And to determine who really came in contact with who is to me like a crapshoot, okay? Oh, I forgot I did this, I did that. So I think in order to cover everybody, it just, in maybe the third grade and below, fourth grade below, whatever the professional teachers say, where the willy worms are no longer as wormy, or wiggly worms, then that's where you could change your rules. But in those grades, I would just mask everybody. Everybody could feel comfortable, and the parents know that if there's a case, we're going to, for 10 days.
I think the difference in what Jerry is presenting and you is that he's saying no masks for anybody unless someone.
Comes down.
But then you're going to do the whole classroom, not just the close contacts.
Yeah, because I think under certain grades, you don't know who the close contacts really are.
Well, we've been tracking it since.
Well, if you have cameras and somebody monitoring that you checked over there and sneezed over here and this.
Sure, but the data that we have tracked, I mean, let's just say there's.
Okay, I guess and this is what I'm saying, I'm erring on caution, so we really can't assure that the close contacts are, so we just mask everybody. It's no big deal to wear a mask in the classroom for 10 days. And not send anybody home.
One piece I did comment on is, I like the discussion about optional maskings for the whole school. I think there's some families that are going to wear it, and that's awesome, and they're going to wear it right, and they're going to be having good masks. And I just don't, I'm not a believer in the mask for young kids, but it's going to make a huge difference. And I think it is a hindrance to teaching, and I think that's the discussion, and our numbers don't support it. So, if you're in the hospital, I'm sorry, sir, you're seeing it every day. Just like a guy in Afghanistan, he's getting shot at every day, a guy at Walmart is not. So, I respect your position, but I think it's at least worth the discussion. So, Jared, I support you on that, and I think his approach covers, we are going to mask if there's close contact, and so I don't think we have to do the whole class.
I'm going to do it for the whole, I'm just doing like for grades, kindergarten, pre-K, kindergarten, first, second maybe.
I would let Mr. Hilton and his team determine who's close contact, because they know, our teachers know our kids. They know who's touching who. I mean, the little guys, yeah, that's what they do. That's why they're little guys. Freshmen and boys do the same thing.
Very important. Everybody's leaving in Sevastopol.
Yeah,
in the
we 1 and 3.
1 and 3, okay, good.
In the regional finals on Saturday, here at Sevastopol.
All right. Further discussion
I
on
would
this?
say, logistically, can we do the testing here, the fast test, quick test, on students that we could consider close contact with and positive
Test on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 9 to 1.
Here at school?
Yes, as long as someone has their person show up.
So I think that would certainly reduce quarantine numbers significantly. Again, I mean, it's unvaccinated, vaccinated population. It's difficult to come up with quarantine number that's going to be accurate for that population.
He asked about the fast test. Is that test on Monday? Is that the fast test? Is that the fast test?
Tuesday, Thursday, right now, if you get the fast test on Tuesday or Thursday, we do a follow-up of the other tests as well. But yeah, but the Summit Labs only here on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
So those are done for students who are recommended for quarantine that have been exposed to a positive test, a positive child with symptoms.
Right, but it has to be on day 5 or 6, whatever it is, I can get that back on that letter, I guess. It's not immediate, like you and Dave are sitting by each other, and Dave's going home positive, you can't go take a test right then. Right.
Would you explain Summit, what is Summit testing?
The Summit Lab is the.
Are we contacted
test.
Arizona?
It's through a grant through the state, they're supposed to have someone here 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, but they can't man all their posts, so we get someone from 9 to 1, and the reason it's 9 to 1 is because the person's driving from Fond du Lac, because they couldn't find workers up in Door County, and we're geographically unacceptable.
Okay, so I made a phone call today.
Okay?
And I had one discussion. I'm not saying there are any promises, but I think there's light that something could be worked out today, where you could get test results in 24 hours.
Why don't you, after the meeting, tell me how we get that done? Because I'd be very interested in getting it fast.
I'll talk to you after this.
All right.
What kind of test?
And it's not, it's not a promise. It's a.
We'll discuss it after the meeting, all right. Because if I could have, I would have by now, Jerry.
Because there is eventually going to be a test, I think, coming out where you can just do it here like the test you do at home.
Okay, so the question before us is, do we support this recommendation that we received tonight, or some hybrid of that as suggested by other board members, where we have strict optional masking for all grades, which then would require another approach to finding someone positive and or in contact?
I move we approve the recommended approach and with the optional masking for the entire school.
Does the recommended disease, you get a second?
Maybe a second.
A second.
Okay, so with that, then do these apply, or do these VENs need modification?
No, these would apply, it would be this plus optional masking K-12, 4 Ks or 12. Right.
And your recommendation is for masking?
I'd have got the masking 6th grade and under, but I could go either way on that. I'm fine with that.
And the motion on the floor is no masking.
Optional masking.
Optional masking.
4 Ks or 12, follow the quarantine procedures as presented here.
How do you know, how reliable is it that if somebody at somebody's, my dad has, I'm a kid, that was a long time ago. But anyway, I'm saying I was a kid and my dad has COVID at home. How reliable is it you're going to be informed of it?
It's on the tracker. We know if a parent has it, a household member.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we know that. It's on a tracker and the nurse looks it up.
I'm a parent at home, how do you get my traffic?
How would you get a positive test?
It's in the database.
When you got the positive test, they entered it
Public
into
health knows and they'll
the
contact them.
data.
They call the high
But if you're asymptomatic and running around, we don't know it, or if you're positive and
It's called contact.
as soon as you get tested, they have the test
Jerry,
results and then
I
they
got a
punch
positive
it.
test, public health called the hospital called the nurse called me and said, go get your kids out of school.
I guess
That's
if
all that happens.
if I lost my taste, had a fever and a cough, and felt like crap, I would assume I wouldn't get tested, I'd just say I got COVID.
There's people that do that.
Okay.
And that, but I'm not gonna.
Yeah, I'm not debating, I'm just asking how.
If you get a positive test, it goes in the tracker.
Okay.
And sometimes we do miss it because people don't have the same last name or something, it slides through. The nurse isn't looking for.
But the vast majority are gonna come through the tracker. And the health department lets you know.
The health department doesn't let us know we find it on the tracker.
Oh, so that's public information. It's public information.
No, the nurse
We have
works
a
for
nurse.
North County Medical Center, so she can look at it. Yeah.
Mr. Volkman, will you read the motion back, please?
Motion by Mr. Kagnersky with a second by Mr. Warwick to approve the following quarantine recommendation. In the motion, I will list everything that is on that paper that I have on my desk and an optional masking for 4K through 12.
Is there any other discussion by board members? I'll take a roll call vote. Mr. Warwick?
Aye.
Mr. Volkman?
Aye.
Ms. Today?
No.
Mr. Kagnersky?
Aye.
Mr. Weidman?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. This to me is another experiment, and I hope that things remain static. Because I don't see it as a win for anybody, I see it as trying to make the best decision for our kids.
This is our plan
Thank
number
you.
4.8.
I know what number it is.
There was a little talk about vaccination, so if anybody has further comment on that or wishes to make a motion, we'll entertain that at this time.
I would like to be able to sleep at night, so if we could have. a
Okay, we
motion,
can't
that
have
would be
the
great.
public talking during this meeting. Anybody want to talk further about vaccination?
Of staff?
No, you, board
I mean
members.
of staff, of vaccination of
Mandatory
staff.
Whatever you want to do,
vaccination of staff.
vaccination.
Okay, I will make a motion that we suspend vaccination of staff until such time as powers to be much greater than us legislate that we are bound to do it by code of law. So
Second.
Discussion? I would agree with that. I think it has to be a personal, it has to be a personal choice. I think it's something that we can, I think we're doing it because we're afraid anybody's going to quit. I think it's a matter of civil liberty and personal choice. So, all in favor, I'll take a roll call vote. Jerry?
Aye.
Keith?
Aye.
Sue? Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Motion carried. Then we have the exciting topic, and I hope you all stay for the revenue limit worksheet.
Nobody better leave.
We could have put this up before COVID discussion. We had it here.
I think we have kids in the hall.
Appreciate it, thank you guys.
Okay. Oh, man, there they go. See there, okay, go ahead.
Well, we have the 21-22 revenue limit worksheet, which Carl and I went to a deep dive workshop on. The top set of yellow numbers, lines up there, end up getting you your 21-22 base revenue limit, which you build the next year's budget off of. In general aid for last year was $6,467, so that's not very much at all in state aid. Computer aid received is $2,260. The aid for exempt personal property is $30,860. Those three figures we have no control over, they come right from the state. Our Fund 10, which is our general fund levy for last year, was $8,151,383. The next line, the 131,945, that is our energy efficiency project, which Carl has 2 more years to go.
Yes.
Yeah, 2 more years. You add those numbers together, and then you minus out the outside the levy limit of $2,285,698 from last year, and you get a base rate of $6,037,217. Then the next 2 green boxes on the 548 and the 540, those are our last 2 previous 3-year rolling averages of enrollment. We have more than 548 students in the building. That's because these are only the residential students that are part of the school district of Sevastopol. So open enrolled kids out count on this list, but open enrolled in do not. Also in kindergarten, our 4K only counts as a 0.6 of an FTE. They don't count as a full-time student.
Actually, kindergartners are 1.0, 4Kers are the only.
4Kers are the 0.6s, yeah. So they don't count yet because it's full-time for funding purposes. So our 3-year rolling average was 548, now it's 540, so it decreases by 8. The next set of green boxes is called Hold Harmless, which is our declining enrollment. Our value of each student here at Sevastopol is $11,016.82. So we have 8 of those students who lost of our 2-year rolling average. So that's $88,135 that will come back to us in our base as we build that this year's budget. The tip out tax blanket equalization valuation will land. in properties in our district is $1,706,162,937 to be exact, which is an increase of $179,717,907. So that's quite an increase in the property value. Of our 540 pupils, that means each pupil has $3.1 million of property value supporting them. The state average is $715,000. So we are 4 times richer than the average in the state. And if it's average, I mean someone's way lower than that as well.
That's why we don't get any.
That's why we don't get state aid, and we
Yeah.
shouldn't with this formula. Also, if you go to the next, on the second page, then you'll see the number from the front, the $6,037,217 roll over there. You got your 548 from last year. The $11,016.82 was the rate of our students, our value of our students. Sevastopol students are more valuable than Sturgeon Bay and Southern Door students. They're only worth $10,000 apiece. Gibraltar has one of the richest in the state. Their students are worth $21,627. And where that comes into play really huge is for each residential student, we collect $11,000. If they choose to go elsewhere, we have to send $8,181 to, say, Sturgeon Bay. Sturgeon Bay, in the meantime, if they have a residential student, they collect $10,000, but then they have to send us $8,181 if we teach their student. Same thing with Gibraltar. So Gibraltar, they'll send us the $81.81, no problem, because they're going to keep over $12,000. So that's how there's the discrepancies there. And that all started back in the 1992 budget when they said, okay, we're going to go from here. And every year they added $100 or $200 incremental increases per student. So back in 1992, if you spent a lot of money, it helps you out 30 years later. Yeah. And if you did spend a lot of money in 1992, it hinders you every year. But they're trying to bring up that base with that $10,000 minimum. So the center of the page, you see that 11,016, they multiply that times 540, it's 6,037,217. Drop that down in the middle of the page, and right below it, you'll see a $2,227,069. That is the sum of all the yellow boxes to the left. So you got 2 million is the first one on line 10A. That's our non-recurring operating cost referendum, which we're in the second year of a 4-year referendum on that. And every year, that number gets wiped out and replaced if you have it on there. So in the 24-25 school year, that number will disappear because the referendum will expire, and we'll probably run one in the meantime to pass that. The declining enrollment exemption of 88,135 is added there. It's also higher up on the sheet because you only count it once. That's why it's in green. Energy efficiency net exemption is 111,488, and that's because if you look down on line 14B, 131,945. That was the cost of the energy efficiency project done about 10 years ago, 12 years ago. You can't capture all that money though, because they're saying, wait a minute, you did a project for 131, but you're saving about 20,000 in energy efficiency, so you don't get it twice, and only get 111, which is fine. It's fair and equal. Now you can't do a project like that for another 1,000 years because of the, well, because of you did a line veto on it. Adjusted for refunded rescinded taxes. No, I'm okay. It's 10,128 on there. And then line 10H is interesting. It says WPCP and RPCP, private school vouchers. We have $17,318 for the Wisconsin schools for private school vouchers, or Racine Unified School District. So they're receiving $17,000 of our money to educate kids in Milwaukee, Madison, Kenosha, and Racine. And that happens to all 420 school districts across the state. So and that was our bad program put in years ago, but there's no change at this point because Milwaukee, Madison, Racine, and Kenosha are the 4 largest school districts in the state. They're not going to get their money up. So you bring her down to line 11, you have $8,264,286. We also, then you take your state aid, which is now only $5,587. Your computer aid, same exact total as last year, $2,260. And it's personal property that's exempt, and these numbers come right from the Department of Revenue, $25,433. So from the 8.2 million, you subtract out 33 million, because that's what the state's going to give us, which means the remainder, 8.2 million, is going to come from the local population. And that's okay, because then you add on to that, well, first off, you got to break out the 8.2 million into your energy efficiency project and the general fund. And then the lower line 15, A through D, $2,710,000. That's the money we're going to collect from the taxpayers and pay back the loan on this building project. $20,000 is for community services, so you add $2,730,000 to the 8.2 million, and the amount of taxes we're going to collect from the local taxpayers is $10,961,006. You divide that figure out by page 1, the $1.7 billion of the property value we have, and it comes out to a levy rate of $6.42. So when people talk about the mill rate, what they're getting taxed at is 6.442. Last year was 6.62, so it's dropping 20 cents. That doesn't mean people's taxes are necessarily going to go down because their property value went up. The tax and the rate goes down, it could still multiply out to the same, more or less, depending. But if we have $179 million of property value, there had to be some new properties built or something to make. You can't go up $180 million and not have some new properties to help spread that cost out over. So that's the revenue little worksheet.
How many more years do we have on the energy efficiency?
I think it's 2 more. And then, but you won't see much come off your taxes at that point because that 131 will come off there, but the way we structured the debt for the 20-year building project here, that'll tick up a little bit at that point, just by $130,000. When you're talking 10.9 million, 131,000 isn't a large percentage.
Instead of it going to Fund 38, it's going to go back into Fund 39 and pay this. So you're still going to see that 131,000 on your tax bill.
Right.
Any other questions on this document? Then make that motion and
I'd make a motion to approve the 2021-2022 revenue limit for $10,961,006 with $8,099,061 in the general fund, Fund 10, $131,945 in the debt service fund, Fund 38, $20,000 in the community fund, Fund 80, $2,710,000 in the referendum approved debt service fund, Fund 39.
Second.
Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Yeah, which must be that only after we talk about how you're going to get the testing done in 24 hours.
So now we are at the final budget. Not the final budget.
Which is depends, but he just spread out the funds. Yeah, I think pretty much did.
So we're done. We've got a retirement announcement for Mr. Carlson.
You got to do budget first.
Mr. Mayor, you want to make?
He just let off the whole motion.
No, but we got to do that was for the levy, now we got to do the budget.
He did each line though.
I did both.
He did
Sorry,
all.
I read what I was.
He read this whole sheet.
Oh, there was 2 sentences on it?
The tax levy is 6.42, but he read the whole, he read your handout, Carl.
I understand, but we still have a line item here to approve the budget.
Okay, you want to show him, let's go over that then?
Well, that's the next item on the agenda.
Okay, you approved all the levies.
Okay.
Now we want you to approve the budgets and present it to you in your packet so that you know where the money is going towards spending, is what Carl's saying.
This budget right here.
Right, that was the other attachment that we received.
I move to approve the 2021-2022 budget as presented in the data provided.
Second.
Questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, staff, for staying.
That was this.
You'll get paid now. So you're gonna-
Okay, now, Mr. Bear.
I would just like to thank Mr. Carlson for his many years of service at Sevastopol School District. I don't want to give anybody the impression that he's retiring right away, but he has submitted a letter for 2024. Mr. Carlson's influence extends well beyond his classroom. I think you probably would have seen him here tonight. He's at many events supporting his FFA in the school. Beyond that, you'll see him out on the farm and throughout our community. Dairy breakfasts has brought so many wonderful things to our community, and it's really provided a safe place for students to develop leadership qualities and learn about our community. So I'm so thankful that I work with him, and will enjoy the next couple of years that I have with him. But he's a wonderful teacher.
I would move to approve the retirement of Mr. Carlson according to his intention for 2023-2024 school year.
Second.
I think somebody will have to pick up from Mr. Carlson his lessons on how to escort someone at a dance,
What a tie.
how to tie a tie.
Those many things.
They're important things. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Who was the second on that?
I was.
Miss,
Sue?
Sue.
Sue, and you seconded? Okay.
You were the first.
Oh.
First, second.
Okay.
the resignation of Leanne Leonardson.
Can I say something quickly? I just want to acknowledge that we've been doing Sevastopol for 25 years, and I just want to say that,
Yeah. Is there a motion to accept Leanne's resignation?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. We have some support staff requests for the use of personal days.
First one, well, first we have a nice letter, but the second one, the second one's to go visit and to actually raise the person as in replacement of her mother. So, and the difference between these and the ones in the last month is last month they wanted to extend a vacation time. These are not extending a vacation time.
So are you recommending?
I'm recommending we would do these, and I put a letter noting what is happening here, so it's a one-time exemption.
And staff is aware of that.
Yeah, I had a discussion with both of them, yes.
So let's make a separate.
You can do them both together.
Do you have a policy on this? Almost.
We do it, it's just a variation from the
It's
policy.
a variation from the policy, so it comes to the board.
And that's why the letter is
It's different than if you want to look at the handbook and change language in the handbook, we could.
No.
Okay.
And when that happens,
You can take a motion then that approves both.
I move to approve both of the extensions of the personal days for the two staff members, committee members.
Second.
Questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Then we have some early college credit program requests. You want to speak to those, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, there's a handout provided in the board packets for the board students interested in starting college programs and getting college credit applications. And this is a requirement for us, but
You can't say no, but the board approves it.
I would move to approve the early college credit program request as presented.
second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Then we have the district medical advisor resignation.
Dr. Fogarty has been our medical advisor. She submitted a letter on the 13th resigning from that position. Brian Stevens, from the Medical Center, contacted me earlier this week, and they're working on finding a replacement doctor. It's not finalized yet, but he thinks he has one. We're by law required to have a medical advisor. I contacted the DPI, said, well, I have to go get one. And they said, as long as you do your due diligence, try and find one. do the best you can, and North County Medical Center came through for us to make it something that I think they're gonna have, so.
So what does the medical advisor, perhaps they've had more contact with us in the last year or whatever, but what generally is their role?
We would reach out to them if we had situations here, to figure out, if you had an outbreak or something like, what's the disease kids get that spreads like foot, hand, and bone disease, items like that. If we have really bad head lice, we might contact them, something like that.
So there's really no action we can take because we don't have,
Have you reached out to Dr. Fogarty? She seems to express some concerns here.
No, I reached out to DPI, they referred me to UW-Madison. I contacted UW-Madison, the doctor I talked to there said, well, I got the person for you, it's Dr. Fogarty. I said, well, that's why I'm calling you, because she resigned. She said, let me talk to the doctor and I'll get back to you. And in the meantime, North County Medical Center is working at different options, so we're there.
So no one has actually talked with Dr. Fogarty about her concerns?
Nope.
I think
But she resigned from each of the districts within the county.
Our board has approved things that she didn't recommend, that she doesn't like. Her memo says it exactly. She wanted everyone full quarantine and full mask.
Her email had no body, it just had an attachment, so I figured if she wanted to talk, she's got my number. She's called me on my cell before.
So, I mean, I think she kind of explains it here. I don't know what more there is to discuss.
She what?
I think her memo explains it to me anyways. What more is there to pursue?
It just, I'm concerned when we have a negative relationship with community resources.
But I think the hospital as a whole has been good through it. I mean, they were here and I think we did make an adjustment to our current plan. I can't say 100%, but I think they were somewhat satisfied, maybe not everybody in the group, but and if they reached out to us with an alternate, I think. I mean, if it's a matter of her opinion and our opinion aren't the same and that's the reason, so be it. If they have an alternate that is a little more flexible, like, could be a positive, it will be a positive, I think.
And it's interesting, we're not the only place she resigned.
Correct.
So Norm Survey as well, she's retained her role.
so do we have to accept her resignation because she's really not a,
Well, except because she's our medical advisor. Yeah.
Is there a
accept
motion?
recommendations.
I make a motion to accept our Dr. Fogarty as our medical advisor.
accept the resignation?
Accept the resignation.
Is there a second to that?
Second.
I make them that we would, the superintendent would send her a note thanking her for your service for the last several years.
Is there a second to the amendment?
Would you please speak louder? I have no idea what he said.
He wants to send a thank you note to Dr. Fogarty.
I would ask that the superintendent sends her a note just thanking her for her services over the past several years in that role.
Who made that motion, Keith? Bill, who made
I
it?
made the initial to accept, I would accept Jerry's,
Do you,
And the second.
we're going to go the friendly amendment route. Do you accept that amendment to your motion?
yes, I would accept
Second.
Jerry's.
Second, yes.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried. That concludes our regular business.
Just because it was a
We'll take a motion to go into executive session.
I move to convene to executive session.
Second.
Second. Roll call vote, Jerry?
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion carried at 8:34 p.m. Cool. Let it roll. So we are back in session at 9:01 p.m. and I will look for a motion on the Destination Imagination Coordinator.
I would move to approve the appointment of Annie Robach as the Destination Imagination Coordinator.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Look for a motion on boys high school assistant basketball coach.
Make a motion to approve the hiring of Jason Bury as the assistant high school basketball coach.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Middle school boys basketball coach.
Move to approve the hiring of Chris Irwin as the 8th grade basketball head coach.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. And that would conclude our regular business for the month. Our next meeting is November 18th. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Building and grounds.
Move to adjourn.
Oh, well,
Building and grounds.
Okay.
what's that, what do you have on your calendar that would work?
I'm pretty much.
Next. Well, I'm out of town Sunday, Monday, Tuesday at the conference. Wednesday would work.
The 27th?
Does that work for you? Well, no, I got that athletic coaches meeting that night. Would the next Wednesday work? The 3rd?
November 3rd.
November 3rd.
All right.
Yeah, I'm good for me.
And what time?
What time works for you guys?
I'm flexible, actually.
Six,
I could go earlier too.
6:30.
Are you, he's gonna set earlier.
I can go earlier. 6 works for me, but we could go right after school, I think.
Okay.
Want to do it earlier, be done earlier?
Yep.
So in daylight, yeah, we can see it in daylight.
Yeah.
3 o'clock?
3 o'clock, 'cause I can swing. If you guys are
Okay,
ready.
so November 3rd is 3 PM, building and grounds. We'll meet in here and then go outside. Okay, then, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried at 9:03 PM.